Martus makes budgeting simple. From creation of budgets to the actual work of budgeting, it's easy to manage the budget process through Martus. As admins, it's very simple to come into Planner Setup and create next year's budget, or even a mid-year reforecast within Martus. For example, to make a mid-year reforecast budget, I can simply come into the year I'm in, click on Create Budget, choose the option to base on current year's actuals and budget. We'll choose our current board-approved budget, and this will load actuals through November of 24 and allow us to budget the rest of December as appropriate. It's also very simple to create next year's budget. All we have to do is load the budget year and click on Create Budget. From here, we can create a budget based on prior year's budget, prior year's actuals, and budget. Now, the other thing that makes Martus powerful is the way it enables our end users to work through their budgeting process. You can see that now we're logged in as Kenny, one of our end users. He can navigate to the Planner Worksheets page and begin the work of budgeting. Remember that Martus is completely flexible in how it is set up to meet the needs of your organization. In this instance, we have two of what we call sheet dimensions, which are defining the areas of our organization in which we are budgeting. You can see that Kenny has two worksheets available to him, both within the Counseling Services Department and the General and Shoreline locations. That's because Kenny is restricted to the Counseling Services Department and just a few locations within our organization. To budget, we're going to click on Edit. Now, oftentimes, one of the biggest struggles with budgeting is being able to identify what the previous year's spending and budget looked like. Martus makes that really simple by showing the reference data. On any row within the budget, you can click on the reference data arrow and be able to see all the prior year's data. So, for example, we're seeing a row with a total for our actuals and budget for the remainder of December, all of our actuals, our 2024 budget, and our 12-month trailing actuals, which means this December number is actually from 2023 because it's trailing 12 months. In this instance, we're telling Martus that we haven't quite hit December of 24 yet. Now, not only can we view the reference data here, but our Budget widget makes it really easy to utilize this data in budgeting for the next fiscal year. To begin, I can click on the Budget widget within my row, and I can choose any of my adjustment types, such as, for example, monthly. Maybe I want to say, looks like about $4,000, and I can hit Preview here. However, I may want to use more specific numbers from the previous year. So let's use our 12-month trailing actuals, and let's increase our budget by 5% and hit Preview. You can see now we're very close to $49,000. And so maybe we want to make our budget that round number. But we don't want to have to do the math to determine what difference that would be. We can use another adjustment type called Allocation to enter $49,000 and hit Preview. Martus will use that reference data that we can see here in the monthly column and allocate the $49,000 in the same way the monthly is allocated with the $46,000. And so, we're seeing those bumps in the month where we may need to spend more on our office supplies. You can also add notes so that any budget approvers can review and be able to see what rationale went into these numbers. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And you'll see that the Budget widget has turned blue, and that just indicates that there is a note somewhere. Now, there are times when we may want to add additional details into our budget. One of the ways we can do that is through something called a Special Purpose Worksheet. Special Purpose Worksheets allow us to add details into our budget lines. For example, I can come up and click on Worksheet Actions, then create Special Purpose Worksheet. And Martus is going to give me the ability to add additional lines into my worksheet that either post or don't post. So, for example, maybe I have various software subscriptions that I want to post and add out to my budget so that I can be aware of what items are going into the total amount. I'm going to add a note here, just so that I can see that on my worksheet. And we'll just copy this line for the sake of quickness and change the description to Adobe. I'll come over to my values and enter a dollar amount. Now, once we hit save, we'll see that Martus is calculating both the $100 and $200, totaling it to $300, and that's what will be pushed into our worksheet when we click on Post to Worksheet. You can see that this allows a budget owner to identify the areas in their budget that they may need more detail or even provide calculations for. The SPW allows them to do those more advanced things. I'm going to click on Post to Worksheet to actually post those changes out to our worksheet. We'll see down here that Martus is smart enough to indicate that this line is controlled by that Special Purpose Worksheet. And if we hover over the amounts, we will actually see the notes that we entered on that first sheet.